If you're watching this, I'm guessing you love a good mystery. Something that makes your heart race, your mind twist, and your skin crawl just a little bit. Because that's exactly what happened to me one quiet evening when my sister-in-law was babysitting my daughter. What started as an ordinary night turned into something so bizarre, so unsettling, I still can't fully explain it. And I promise you, by the time you hear everything, you'll be asking yourself the same questions I still can't answer. What really happened that night? And who, or what, was speaking through my daughter? Before I dive in, let me say this. I'm not here to scare you or tell ghost stories. I'm here to share something real, something that changed my family forever and left us all questioning reality. If you've ever felt like there's something just beneath the surface of the everyday world, something unexplained lurking in the shadows of normal life, then this story will resonate with you on a deep level. Now, I want to be honest with you. When it all began, I had no idea what I was about to witness. My sister-in-law, a woman I trust completely, was watching over my daughter while I had to step out for a few hours. I left feeling safe, confident that my little girl was in good hands. But what happened next didn't make any sense. It was a night that fractured everything I thought I knew about family, trust, and the unseen forces that might be watching us. You see, my daughter, sweet, innocent, bright, started speaking in a voice that wasn't hers. Not just different words or new tone, but a voice that felt foreign, cold, and chillingly unfamiliar. It wasn't just a voice. The words she said were strange, cryptic, and something I could never have expected a child her age to know or say. When I first heard it, I questioned my own sanity. Was it a prank? Had my sister-in-law been playing some twisted game? Or was something else at play, something beyond explanation? I want you to imagine being in my shoes, hearing your child's voice change like that, your heart pounding in confusion and fear, not knowing if you're witnessing a harmless moment of imagination or something far darker. It's the kind of moment that shatters your sense of security. And it's exactly the kind of story that stays with you long after the screen goes dark. This video isn't just about the creepy moment my daughter spoke in that strange voice. It's about the strange events that followed, the clues that didn't add up, and the chilling encounters that made me realize this was bigger than a simple babysitting night gone wrong. I'll introduce you to the people involved. My sister-in-law, whose calm exterior cracked in ways I never expected. My daughter, whose innocence was pierced by something inexplicable, and myself, caught between disbelief and desperate need to protect my family. As you watch, I want you to pay attention to the small details, the things I almost missed, the little signs that something was off even before the voice appeared, because those moments matter. They hold the key to understanding what really happened that night. And trust me, I've spent sleepless nights piecing together every word, every look, every sound. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This story dives deep into fear, trust, and the unknown. It taps into that primal part of us that wonders if there's more to the world than meets the eye, if sometimes the people we love most become vessels for something else entirely. The psychological tension builds slowly, layering unease with moments of hope and disbelief. I'll take you through the timeline, the conversations, and the revelations in a way that feels like you're right there with me, experiencing it firsthand. So, why am I sharing this with you? Because I believe in the power of stories to connect us, to open our minds to possibilities we'd rather ignore, and to remind us that sometimes the scariest mysteries aren't on the outside. They're right inside our homes, our families, and the people we trust most. And here's the thing, I still don't have all the answers. In fact, the more I learn, the more questions I have. But what I do know is that after that night, nothing was the same again. The voice was only the beginning. The real mystery unfolded in ways that shook me to my core and forced me to confront truths I wasn't ready to face. Now, before I give you more details, I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt that eerie sensation that someone's watching you, even when you're alone? Have you ever heard a voice, a whisper, or a sound that didn't belong? If you have, then you already know how unsettling it can be. If you haven't, prepare yourself, because this story might just change the way you see the world around you. I'm going to take you through everything step by step, from the moment my sister-in-law arrived to babysit, to the strange incidents leading up to the voice, and the aftermath that left us all questioning reality. Along the way, I'll share what we discovered, the signs we overlooked, and the chilling evidence that pointed to something more than just a coincidence. In the weeks leading up to that night, my life had been a whirlwind of stress and uncertainty, the kind of chaos that almost blindsides you if you're not paying attention. Work had been overwhelming. Long hours, constant pressure, and deadlines that felt impossible to meet. I was barely holding it together, juggling my career and motherhood like a tightrope walker trying not to fall. My husband, normally a rock, was traveling out of state for business, which left me alone with our daughter more often than usual. That's when my sister-in-law, Jenna, stepped in. Jenna had always been close to our family, warm and reliable, so it felt natural to ask her for help when things got too much. She was happy to babysit, and I remember feeling a brief sense of relief knowing that my daughter would be in familiar hands. But looking back now, there were small things I should have noticed, tiny glitches in the fabric of our everyday life that didn't make sense at the time. Little moments when Jenna seemed distracted, like she was carrying a secret she didn't want to share. Or my daughter, usually so bubbly and cheerful, suddenly growing quiet and withdrawn during those evenings Jenna watched her. I told myself it was just the stress, or maybe my daughter was tired or sick. I dismissed the unease as paranoia, telling myself I was imagining things. After all, how could the woman I trusted most be involved in anything strange? What I didn't know was that the quiet nights, the whispered voices, and the unexplained shadows were all part of a larger puzzle that was slowly closing in around us. I started noticing odd things in the house. Doors left slightly ajar when I was certain I'd shut them, unfamiliar smells that came and went, and once, a small, cryptic note tucked under my daughter's pillow. The note wasn't written in any language I recognized, but it felt urgent, like a warning. When I asked Jen about it, she brushed it off with a nervous laugh and said I was reading too much into things. But the seed of doubt was planted. Around that time, I also discovered that Jenna had been spending a lot more time on her phone, texting someone in secret. I tried to be understanding. Everyone deserves privacy, but the timing was suspicious. Who was she talking to so late at night? And why did she get so defensive when I asked? It was subtle, but the cracks were starting to show. I found myself wondering if Jenna was hiding something bigger than just a personal matter. Was there someone else involved in whatever was happening to my daughter? Was Jenna protecting us, or herself? At the same time, our neighborhood was buzzing with rumors that seemed unrelated, but somehow intertwined with the strange occurrences at my house. People whispered about unexplained break-ins, odd noises heard in the dead of night, and a series of petty thefts that no one could quite explain. Some neighbors mentioned seeing unfamiliar faces lurking around after dark. I started to wonder if any of this had a connection to the chilling voice my daughter had spoken with. If maybe there was a larger presence watching us in the shadows, something that Jenna knew about but wasn't telling me. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more beneath the surface, some hidden thread tying all these fragments together. Was it just bad timing, a coincidence of events? Or was there someone manipulating the situation from behind the scenes? My mind raced through every possibility. Was it a prank? A psychological trick? Or something supernatural? The kind of story you see in viral YouTube videos that get millions of views but dismiss as fiction? I didn't want to believe the worst, but every new detail pushed me closer to a terrifying reality. Even more unsettling was how my daughter's behavior changed after that night. She wasn't herself anymore. At times, she seemed distant, as if she was listening to voices I couldn't hear. Her eyes would glaze over, and she'd speak in that strange, chilling voice again, sometimes repeating phrases that made no sense but felt loaded with meaning. I tried to record these moments, hoping to capture proof or clues, but the recordings were always strangely distorted, like static had swallowed her words. Jenna insisted it was all in my head, that stress was making me see things. But deep down, I knew she was scared too, maybe even more scared than I was. And then there was the matter of the phone calls. Late at night, I started receiving calls from an unknown number. No one on the other end but faint breathing and soft whispers. When I traced the number, it led nowhere. I mentioned it to Jenna, and she went pale, begging me not to dig deeper. Why would she react like that if it was nothing? Was someone watching us, trying to send a message? The tension in the house grew unbearable, like we were trapped in a thriller unfolding in real time. As I pieced all of this together, The people around me began to feel less familiar and more like potential suspects. Was Jenna hiding a secret that put my daughter in danger? Could it have been someone from outside the family, an old acquaintance, a stranger, or someone lurking in the neighborhood? Every conversation felt like a minefield. Every glance weighed down with unspoken truths. The lines between friend and foe blurred, and I realized that to protect my daughter, I had to confront not just the eerie voice or the strange happenings, but the complex, fragile web of trust and suspicion surrounding me. The more I questioned, the more I realized how little control I actually had, and the more the story spiraled into a labyrinth of dark secrets and unanswered questions, the more desperate I became for answers. But the truth was elusive, hiding just out of reach, teasing me with glimpses but never fully revealing itself. This wasn't just about a babysitting night gone wrong anymore. It was a puzzle with pieces scattered across relationships, unexplained phenomena, and chilling encounters that defied logic. It was about my daughter's safety, my family's survival, and the shadowy forces, human or otherwise, that had inserted themselves into our lives without warning. And just when I thought I was close to understanding, something happened that made me question everything all over again. Something that no one could have predicted. Something that turned the whole story upside down and left me standing on the edge of a truth too terrifying to face. But before I share that, I want you to keep these details in mind, because the answer to what really happened isn't simple, and it's not what you expect. The clues are scattered, the motives unclear, and the danger closer than any of us realized. The deeper I dug into what was happening, the more the walls seemed to close in around me. Just when I thought I was starting to piece together the puzzle, something would shift, something that made me question everything all over again. It wasn't just the eerie voice or the strange notes. It was the way the world around me started to push back, almost like I'd stumbled into a place I wasn't supposed to be. One of the first moments that really shook me was when I discovered that a crucial piece of evidence had vanished without a trace. I had been keeping a small notebook where I scribbled everything: times, phrases, odd behaviors, even the cryptic note under my daughter's pillow. That notebook was my lifeline, my way of making sense of the madness. But one day, it simply disappeared. I searched everywhere, under the bed, in every drawer, even the backyard, but it was gone, like someone had deliberately taken it. When I asked Jen about it, she acted like she had no idea what I was talking about, but her eyes told a different story. There was a flicker of guilt, or was it fear? And that only made my suspicions grow. Then, out of nowhere, I started getting warnings, text messages on my phone from unknown numbers. They were short, chilling. Stop digging. Some truths are better left buried. Let it go before it's too late. At first, I tried to shrug them off as pranksters, but the tone was so ominous, so personal. I couldn't ignore them. The fear wasn't just about me anymore. It was about my daughter, about the family I was desperate to protect. What made it worse was how isolated I felt. Friends who used a check-in suddenly became distant or evasive. Jenna, who I thought was an ally, grew colder and more secretive. Even my husband, when he was home, seemed distracted, like there was something he wasn't telling me. That's when I found out about something from Jenna's past that made me question everything. Something she'd hidden from the family for years. It was a secret event, a betrayal no one knew about, something that explained her strange behavior and why she might be protecting someone or something. Apparently, years ago, Jenna had been involved in a situation that went sideways. A close friend disappeared under mysterious circumstances, and the police had been involved. It was hushed up, buried beneath layers of family loyalty and quiet agreement to never speak of it. But now, that secret seemed to be resurfacing, and it was tangled up with my daughter's strange voice and the warnings I was getting. Could Jenna's past be connected to the chilling mystery unfolding in my own home? Was she protecting the truth, or was she hiding something far darker? Adding to the tension, there was another figure who stepped into the picture, a man who showed up unannounced, claiming to be an old family friend. At first, he seemed helpful, offering support and trying to ease my worries. But something about him felt off. His questions were too pointed, his smiles too forced. I caught him watching the house late at night, disappearing before I could ask what he was doing. Was he friend or foe? Ally or threat? The lines blurred, and I didn't know who to trust anymore. As all this was happening, The strange incidents escalated. My daughter's voice returned again and again, each time more unsettling, uttering phrases that hinted at secrets we were too afraid to uncover. I felt like I was living in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from, a web of shadows, lies, and unanswered questions that threatened to swallow my entire family. And just when I thought I might finally get to the bottom of it, another shock hit me, a piece of information so unexpected, so devastating. It made me realize the nightmare was far from over. But I can't share that just yet. Not until you've heard everything leading up to it. Because in this story, every answer comes with price, and every truth uncovered only pulls you deeper into the darkness. So stay with me. The next chapter will change everything you thought you knew, and leave you questioning who, if anyone, is really on our side. Just when I thought the chaos was confined to my little world, the mystery began to ripple outward in ways I hadn't expected. A few nights after those chilling warnings started flooding my phone, I got a frantic call from my brother. His voice was tight with fear, and the first words out of his mouth sent a cold shiver down my spine. He had received the exact same ominous messages, the stop digging, let it go before it's too late texts that had been haunting me. But it wasn't just a text. He'd found a strange symbol scratched into the back of his mailbox, something cryptic that none of us recognized, but that carried an unsettling weight. Suddenly, it wasn't just my family under threat. It was ours, the whole extended circle tangled in something bigger and darker than any of us could understand. This revelation hit me harder than I expected because it meant the danger wasn't random or isolated. It was targeted, methodical, personal. My brother's involvement brought a new layer of complexity and forced me to reconsider everything I thought I knew. The unease that had been simmering beneath the surface was now boiling over. In the days that followed, more pieces of conflicting evidence surfaced, pulling the rug out from under fragile truths I had been clinging to. One of the strangest moments came when I stumbled upon a set of security camera footage from the night my daughter first spoke in that haunting voice. I had assumed that Jenna was alone with her, but the footage revealed someone else, an unknown figure, lurking just beyond the edge of the frame, barely visible but unmistakably there. The footage was grainy, but the shadowy figure's presence was undeniable, throwing into question Jenna's version of events and raising suspicions I hadn't dared voice before. Who was this person? Why had Jenna never mentioned them? And what role did they play in the nightmare unfolding around us? With every new discovery, the web of trust and betrayal tangled tighter. The man who had appeared claiming to be a family friend suddenly took on a more sinister shade. Conversations I'd overheard hinted at secrets he kept close to his chest, and once I caught him deleting messages on his phone when he thought I wasn't looking. Was he watching us? Or worse, manipulating us? It became clear that everyone had motives they weren't revealing. Even Jenna, with her hidden past, started acting more distant, as if the weight of a secret was suffocating her. The family, once a source of strength, now felt like a minefield of suspicion and doubt. And just as I was beginning to feel like I could trust no one, an unexpected discovery shook me to the core. In my daughter's room, tucked away beneath her bed, I found an old, faded photograph. It showed my daughter standing with a woman I didn't recognize, a woman whose face was half hidden in the shadows, but whose presence was chillingly familiar. There was something about that photo that didn't fit with anything I knew about my family, about Jenna, or even about my daughter. It was a clue that contradicted everything I'd been told and suggested there were hidden connections and betrayals far deeper than I ever imagined. As the stakes rose higher, I felt like I was trapped in a thriller where every answer only bred more questions, and every ally could be an enemy in disguise. The line between reality and something far more sinister blurred, and I was desperate to find a way out before everything fell apart. But with every step I took, the shadows grew longer and the danger more real. And now, with my brother caught in the same storm and the secrets unraveling faster than I could follow, I knew the path ahead was darker and more twisted than ever. So I ask you, who can we trust when the people closest to us are hiding the deepest secrets? And what terrible truths are waiting just beneath the surface, ready to change everything? The story is far from over. The real nightmare is only beginning, and the next chapter will pull you deeper into the darkness with no promise of escape. The night everything spiraled into darkness didn't come with a warning or sign. It arrived like a shadow slipping through cracks of my life, unannounced and unstoppable. I remember sitting in my living room, the house eerily quiet except for the soft of the streetlights outside and the occasional creak of the old floorboards beneath my feet. My mind was spinning, haunted by the tangled mess of secrets, threats, and unanswered questions that had consumed me for weeks. Then, as I glanced toward the window, I caught movement, a figure standing just beyond the edge of the porch light, watching. For a moment, my heart stopped, frozen by the unmistakable feeling of being hunted. I wasn't just imagining it anymore. Someone was following me. The panic hit like a tidal wave. Every noise seemed amplified, every shadow a potential threat. I tried to convince myself it was a neighbor or a passerby, but the way that figure lingered, silent, unmoving, almost deliberate, sent a chill through my bones that no logical explanation could chase away. That night was the first time I truly felt the weight of danger pressing down on me. The realization that whatever was unraveling wasn't just about strange voices or cryptic messages anymore. It was about survival. Days later, the nightmare deepened in a way I wasn't prepared for. Jenna, my sister-in-law, my once trusted ally, disappeared without a trace. One moment she was there, distant but present, and the next she was gone, leaving behind a void filled with questions and a silence that screamed. No calls, no texts, no sign she was anywhere near us. Her car was still in the driveway, her belongings untouched, but Jenna herself had vanished, like she'd been swallowed by the very shadows we feared. The disappearance hit me harder than I expected. Was she running from something? Or had someone taken her? The thought that she might be in danger clawed at me, but deeper still was a gnawing suspicion that she knew more than she ever let on. And maybe, just maybe, she disappeared because she couldn't handle the truth, or because she was involved in ways I couldn't understand. In the wake of Jenna's absence, the warnings became more direct and terrifying. A package arrived on my doorstep with no return address. Inside was a single, chilling message scrawled on yellow paper: "Stop or lose everything." The handwriting was unfamiliar, but the threat was unmistakable. That moment shattered any remaining illusion of safety. Suddenly, the paranoia I had been trying to suppress became an all-consuming reality. I found myself jumping at every sound, scanning every passerby with suspicion, haunted by the idea that danger was lurking just out of sight. Every decision felt like a risk. Every relationship, a question mark. I wrestled with 1,000 thoughts. Who was behind this? What did they want? And, most terrifying of all, was my daughter safe, or had she become the center of something far darker than I could ever imagine? The emotional toll was crushing. Sleepless nights blurred into anxious days. I caught myself replaying every conversation, every glance, trying to decipher hidden meanings I had missed. The overwhelming fear wasn't just for my own life, but for the innocent child whose voice had first alerted me to the nightmare. My mind was a battlefield of hope and dread, courage and terror. Yet despite the mounting danger, despite the threats and the vanishings, I couldn't turn away. I couldn't let the darkness win. There was a stubborn fire inside me that refused to be snuffed out, a need to uncover the truth no matter how painful or terrifying it might be. But as the story deepened and the shadows lengthened, I realized that this wasn't just a mystery to solve. It was a trap, a puzzle designed to ensnare me in fear and confusion. And just when I thought I might find a way forward, another chilling realization struck me. Someone close to me was watching, waiting, and maybe even controlling the strings in ways I couldn't yet see. The line between friend and foe blurred until it was almost impossible to tell who was really on my side. As I write this now, the questions multiply, and the danger feels closer than ever. Who sent those messages? Where is Jenna? What is the truth behind my daughter's voice? And am I next? The story is far from over. If anything, the darkness is closing in, and I need you to stay with me, to hold on tight, because what comes next will change everything. But for now, all I can do is brace myself and hope that somehow, we'll find a way out of the nightmare that has taken hold of our lives. Just when I thought I had reached the edge of this nightmare, when the threads of fear and confusion had woven so tightly around my mind that there seemed no way out, the story shifted in a way I never saw coming. A revelation that made me question everything I thought I knew about that night, about Jenna, about my daughter, and about myself. It began with a late-night phone call from someone I never expected to hear from again, my husband. He was usually the calm center of my storm, the voice of reason. But that night, his voice was trembling, strained with a secret he'd been carrying far too long. What he told me shattered the fragile trust one had left. The truth wasn't about the strange voice or the threats, or even Jenna's disappearance. It was about a hidden past none of us had known existed. My husband confessed that before we met, he had been involved in something dark and dangerous, something that put our entire family at risk long before Jenna ever stepped through our door. He revealed that the strange messages, the warnings, and the presence lurking outside were connected to a secret from his former life, a life he had desperately tried to leave behind, but that was now catching up with us in terrifying ways. What stunned me most was that Jenna's involvement wasn't accidental. She had known about his past all along, maybe even been part of it in ways I hadn't imagined. That chilling voice my daughter spoke in, it wasn't just a random, unexplained phenomenon. It was a sign, a message tied to that hidden history, one that had resurfaced and was reaching into our present like a dark hand, pulling us back into something we thought was buried forever. Suddenly, the pieces fell into place with a disturbing clarity. The strange phone calls, the vanishing evidence, the mysterious figure on the security footage, they were all part of a carefully orchestrated game. Someone was sending warnings, yes, but not just to scare me. They were trying to control us, to make us play a role in a story that was far bigger and more dangerous than a babysitting nightmare. But for now, I have to ask you to hold on tight, because the moment my daughter's voice changed, that moment was only the beginning of a nightmare that none of us could have predicted. And as if that wasn't enough, an unexpected visitor appeared at my doorstep. The man who claimed to be a family friend revealed his true purpose. He wasn't there to help. He was there to ensure the past stayed buried. His calm demeanor cracked as he confessed to watching us, to protecting secrets that could destroy everything if they ever came to light. He warned me once again, stop digging, or the consequences would be worse than I could imagine. But the twist didn't stop there. The faded photograph I'd found earlier, the one of my daughter with that unknown woman, was now a key to unraveling a deeper betrayal. That woman wasn't a stranger. She was someone from my husband's past, someone connected to the secret he'd kept hidden, someone whose influence had quietly shaped the events leading to the night my daughter's voice changed, and whose shadow still loomed over us all. I was left staring into a maze of lies, betrayal, and hidden agendas. The family I thought I knew was fractured by secrets and half-truths. The people I trusted had been keeping pieces of this dark puzzle from me, for reasons I still don't fully understand. And my daughter, the innocent child caught in the center of the storm, was somehow the key to a mystery that went far beyond anything I had imagined. In that moment, I realized that this wasn't just a story about a babysitting night gone wrong. It was a tangled web of past sins, dangerous secrets, and forces beyond my control. The mystery I'd been chasing wasn't what it seemed. It was a gateway to truths that were both terrifying and impossible to ignore. And now, as the shadows lengthen and the danger closes in, I'm left with more questions and answers, unsure who to trust, unsure if the nightmare will ever truly end. The story has taken a dark, unexpected turn, and all I can do is hold on tight and keep searching for the truth, no matter the cost. The weight of the revelations pressed down on me like a storm I couldn't outrun, turning every breath into a battle between fear and determination. I found myself standing at the edge of an impossible choice, a crossroads that no parent, no person should ever be forced to face. The truth I'd been chasing, the answers I'd begged for, came with a price so high it threatened to shatter everything I held dear. It started with a confrontation I couldn't avoid any longer, one that tore through the fragile veil of family loyalty and trust. I had to confront Jenna, my sister-in-law, the woman who had once been a comforting presence, but had slowly become a puzzle piece I couldn't place. When I finally found her, hiding in a cramped, dimly lit motel room miles from home, the tension between us was palpable, thick enough to cut with a knife. Her eyes, once warm and familiar, now flickered with fear and defiance. She confessed more than I expected, admitting her knowledge of my husband's dark past, her involvement in protecting secrets she could no longer bear to keep, and her desperate attempts to shield my daughter from forces she barely understood herself. But with her confession came an ultimatum so cruel it felt like a blow to my very soul. Stop digging into the past or risk losing everything. My family, my safety, even my daughter. I was caught in a suffocating trap. Could I turn away from the truth to keep us safe, or was the truth the only path to salvation? The emotional storm inside me raged uncontrollably. Every instinct screamed to protect my child at all costs. Yet the desire to know who was truly behind the threats and strange voices clawed at me relentlessly. I was haunted by the possibility that silence would only allow the darkness to grow, but speaking out might unleash chaos I couldn't control. In those desperate hours, I realized the true cost of uncovering hidden truths, the way they can fracture families, distort love, and blur the lines between right and wrong. The people I loved most were tangled in secrets that pitted loyalty against survival, and every choice felt like walking a razor's edge. Adding to the torment was my husband's silence. His evasions and half-truths weighed heavily on me, a constant reminder that the foundation of our life was built on buried lies. When I tried to confront him, his answers were guarded, painful to hear, and filled with the kind of sorrow that made me question if the man I married was the same one sitting across from me. The tension between us grew unbearable, each conversation a battle of words and withheld emotions. I felt isolated in my struggle, caught between fierce love and shattering betrayal. And amidst all this, my daughter's well-being was the heart of my torment. Her innocent face, the warmth of her laughter before the voice changed, was my anchor. Yet now, every strange phrase, every unexplained moment, filled me with dread that I was losing her piece by piece to a darkness I couldn't fight alone. The stakes had never been higher. I was being pushed to the brink, forced to make choices that no parent should have to consider, choices that might save one part of my family, but destroy another. The threats, the secrets, the chilling mysteries weren't just stories anymore. They were real, urgent, and closing in fast. I didn't know who to trust, and every step forward felt like walking deeper into a maze with no exit. The question that haunted me day and night was simple yet unbearable. How much was I willing to sacrifice to protect the truth? And was the truth worth the price? The nightmare was far from over. The clock was ticking, and I knew that soon I would have to make a decision that could change everything forever. The walls closed and faster than I could have ever imagined. The threads of what I thought was a personal nightmare unraveling into something far more sinister, sprawling, and dangerous than I ever dare believe. It wasn't just my family caught in the storm. It was a vast network of people, all tangled up in secrets so deep and dark they defied logic and sanity. What hit me hardest was the realization that the people I trusted most were the ones pulling the strings, shaping the nightmare that had invaded my life with cold precision. The man I once thought was my husband's closest friend, someone who had offered support and calm in the midst of chaos, was a very architect of conspiracy, working behind the scenes to keep the truth buried, no matter the cost. His smooth reassurances were lies. His friendly smiles masked designed to disarm and deceive. When I confronted him, the facade cracked, revealing a ruthless determination that sent a chill deeper than any ghost story. The conspiracy was bigger than threats or strange voices. It was a calculated operation with stakes that reached far beyond my home, involving powerful people willing to sacrifice innocence and family ties for their own shadowy agendas. I uncovered evidence of financial schemes, blackmail, and even a cover-up that stretched back years, implicating neighbors, old acquaintances, and trusted community figures. Everyone who had seemed benign suddenly appeared as a potential player, and I had to question every gesture, every word, every hidden glance. Time felt like it was running out. The closer I got to the truth, the more dangerous the game became. I felt eyes watching from the shadows, heard whispers that weren't meant for me, and sensed the pressure mounting not just on my family but on my very life. Every step forward was a risk, and the cost of failure was unthinkable. My daughter, caught in the center of it all, became a symbol of the fragile line between innocence and corruption. Her strange voice, the chilling messages, the cryptic clues, they were pieces of a puzzle designed to manipulate and control, but also to warn. And I realized with sickening certainty that if I didn't act fast, the nightmare would consume everything I loved. The betrayal stung the deepest. The people I turned to for help, the allies I believed in, were working to keep me silent. In this shadow war, trust was a weapon and loyalty a lie. As I raced against time, piecing together fragments of truth, I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just my fight anymore. It was a battle for survival, for justice, and for the soul of family caught in a web far bigger than any of us realized. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the danger was real and immediate. There was no turning back, no safe ground left. All I could do was push forward, fueled by love, fear, and the desperate hope that in the end, truth would find a way to break through the darkness. The moment I had been dreading and desperate for arrived all at once, like a storm crashing down on everything I thought I knew. The house that once felt like a sanctuary now stood on the edge of chaos, shadows creeping into every corner, as I prepared to confront the man who had manipulated, lied, and controlled the very fabric of my family's existence. The air was thick with tension, every creak and whisper magnified in the silence that stretched between us. I wasn't just fighting for answers anymore. I was fighting for my daughter, for my sanity, and for the truth that had been buried beneath layers of betrayal and darkness. As he stepped out of the shadows, that calm mask cracked, revealing a cold and calculating figure who thrived on secrets and power. His voice was low but sharp, every word a weapon meant to cut deeper than any blade. He taunted me, reminding me of the dangers I had brought upon my family by refusing to stay silent, by chasing ghosts he claimed were nothing more than figments of a paranoid mind. But I stood my ground, fueled by a mix of fear, rage, and fierce love. The room felt like a battlefield, every glance a challenge, every breath a test of will. The confrontation spiraled quickly into a psychological war, a fight to break the lies, to expose the hidden truths that had been twisted to serve his dark agenda. I laid out the evidence, the notes, the recordings, every piece of the puzzle that painted a picture of deception so vast it was almost impossible to believe. But just as I thought I had cornered him, he smiled, cold and knowing, and far more dangerous than I had imagined, and dropped a final bombshell that shattered everything once again. The true mastermind wasn't him. He was a pawn, a mask for someone even closer, someone I never suspected but who had been pulling the strings from the very beginning. That revelation hit like a punch to the gut, twisting the knife of betrayal deeper than any of the threats or secrets before. The twist turned the entire story on its head, making me question every relationship, every moment of trust I'd given. As the truth crashed down, I realized a nightmare wasn't just about secrets or voices or threats. It was about survival, about peeling back the layers of lies to face a reality so dark, so personal, that it threatened to consume us all. And in the final moments, as the confrontation reached its fever pitch, I saw something in my daughter's eyes, a flicker of understanding, a strength that had been hidden beneath the fear and confusion. It was a reminder that no matter how deep the darkness, there is always a spark of light waiting to be found. The climax left me breathless, hanging on the edge of a revelation that promised answers but hinted at dangers still lurking just out of sight. The battle was over, but the war was far from won, and the final twist left a lingering question. In a world built on lies and shadows, who can you truly trust? In the quiet aftermath of everything that had happened, I found myself standing alone in the dim light of the early morning, the house finally feeling like my own again, but forever changed by the weight of truth and betrayal it had witnessed. The shadows that once seemed so thick and suffocating had lifted enough to let in a fragile sense of peace, though the scars beneath the surface would take much longer to heal. The tangled web of secrets that had threatened to tear my family apart was slowly unraveling, and while many questions were answered, some mysteries remained stubbornly elusive, refusing to be neatly tied up or forgotten. Jenna's disappearance was explained. Though the reasons were painful, a desperate act to escape the fallout of choices made long ago, choices that had rippled through our lives in ways none of us could have predicted. My husband's hidden past was finally out in the open, allowing us to confront the darkness together, even if the wounds it left would never fully disappear. Most importantly, my daughter's strange voice, the chilling mystery that had started it all, was understood not as a haunting or a curse, but as a fragile echo of fear and trauma that she had absorbed from the fractured world around her, a silent cry for help that we had almost missed. The conspiracy that had engulfed us was real, vast, and painful, but exposing it had shattered its power. The people who had once pulled the strings were brought to light, their secrets no longer safe in the shadows. Yet, even as justice seemed within reach, the lingering questions about trust and betrayal remained. How do you protect the people you love when the greatest danger can come from the ones closest to you? How do you rebuild when the foundation you stood on was built with lies? Those questions weighed on me, heavy and unresolved, because life doesn't always offer neat endings or perfect closure. There was a moment, standing in the quiet, when I looked at my daughter's face, the same face that frightened me with its otherworldly whispers, and saw the pure, unbroken spirit child who had survived a storm none of us could have imagined. In her eyes, I found hope and the courage to move forward, even when the future was uncertain. The story I've shared with you isn't just about shadows and secrets. It's about the resilience of family, the painful price of truth, and the delicate strength we find when facing the unknown together. The darkness may have receded, but it left behind a reminder. Some mysteries don't end. They only change shape. And sometimes, the most important journey is learning how to live with those mysteries, to find peace not in answers, but in the hope that comes from confronting the truth with open eyes and an open heart. So, as you close this chapter with me, remember that every story holds more than just what's seen on the surface. There are whispers beneath the silence, shadows behind the light, and sometimes the voice you hear isn't the one you expect. Thank you for walking this path with me, for staying through the darkness, and for believing that even in the deepest shadows, there's always a glimmer waiting to be found.